Hello, everybody. I am Andrew Jaloza from the Estate Planning and Elder Law Group here in Glendale, Queens. I want you to know that we are really grateful to see that we have some people listening to us and some excitement forming over our podcast, which is great. And so, welcome to the latest episode of From Queens to Cleveland, a lawcast that centers in on estate planning and discussions between Matt Deliberato and I. Matt?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're so excited to be here just because there's been some great topics, some great feedback, and we are just elated. So thank you for having us. I'm here in Cleveland with the Deliberato Law Center, and we'll give you all our contact info later. But today we're talking about
Healthcare Proxies.
excellent. And in Cleveland, we don't use the word proxy. I know in New
Yeah,
York you do. We call it a healthcare power of attorney, but same thing. Proxy means power.
exactly. A power that you give to someone else.
Yes.
Right. So someone acts as your proxy, or they act as what they call them agent. They call them the healthcare agent.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. So yes. So regardless what a healthcare proxy is, it's a document that you create. See, once you turn 18, you're an adult. You're a human being who has his own distinct ownership of everything, get to make all your own decisions, and while you're alive and well, you continue to do so. So what we do, a healthcare proxy, like what we talked about, a power of attorney in another episode, is called an advance directive. In advance of something really bad happening, you direct what you want to happen.
Perfect. And I'm glad you opened with that because I've been doing more of these and general durable power of attorneys for my friends who have 18-year-olds. And let's just start there. That is so important. You're 18. So you're in college, something happens to you, your parents are unable to talk to those doctors without these documents. So important to have. Sorry to interrupt you, Andrew.
You're not interrupting. You're Ed. That's exactly right. And so my 18-year-old went away. I had my daughter signed one of those, and my stepdaughter signed one of those, because what happens is you call up the school, or you call up the hospital where your child is sitting, and they're not going to talk to you because they have no idea who you are.
They're their own person.
And they're their own person. So they make their own decisions, whether they're qualified to make them or not. And if you're sitting there, miles and miles away and anxious and have no contact and no ability to talk to the people at the clinic, well, how you could remedy that is send them back to school after the break with a healthcare proxy or a healthcare power of attorney. So
Exactly.
what is a healthcare power of attorney, Matt?
It is a legal document that allows someone to control your healthcare decisions if you're unable to. That's simply put, right? It's just something that you need in place. And your doctors, the hospital, you've been asked about these documents, I'm sure, before. And the interesting thing is that they will give you one if you are unable to provide one. The problem with those, and I don't know about you, Andrew, but in Ohio for sure, the Ohio Health Care Proxy or power of attorney it's not adequate. It does not serve what you want it to serve. And so, we always talk about who makes the decision, but it's really in our documents, and I know Andrew and I work together, so I know it says it in his too, but if I'm unable to recover from this situation, I don't want these measures anymore, right? And we say that in there because instead of you making the decision, it's saying, I don't want it. And that's a huge emotional factor for a lot of people because I can now say I have a document that says I direct these things instead of, oh, you just make the decision. That's a little more difficult. And, people love to make the decision to pull the plug, right? That's just given, right? They love to make those decisions. Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course not. Of course not.
I know that my mother didn't like to make that decision for her mother, and she
Yeah,
was faced
yeah,
with that decision, and it was really horrible for her.
yeah.
So that's like you said, you get to put into your own words what it is you want to happen and what it is you don't want to happen.
Correct.
And it specifically says in there and gives some peace of mind to the person who has to make that decision that these are your choices, and I really want you to follow them.
Yes.
And in fact, if your agent doesn't happen to be there when the medical professional needs to act, the document also says, I want you, medical professional, to follow what I'm saying here because these are my wishes. and tell the people, don't feel bad if you make these decisions because this is what I want. So it's
Yeah,
very important, especially, and it goes into effect really only if you can't speak for yourself. It's not like not like they're
right.
going to ignore you sitting there and talk to your daughter or son when you're sitting there alive and well and able to communicate. It's there in case you can't communicate.
Yes. And one of the biggest questions I get asked, and maybe you can answer this for us, Andrew, is what's the difference between a living will and a healthcare power of attorney? I have people always say, oh, my living will is what tells, where my stuff goes when I die. And I'm like, absolutely not. So what is the difference between those two?
Well, first of all, you have two distinctions you just made there. You said the distinction between the living will and a last will and testament.
Yes.
The last will and testament will say who gets what, when, and how, and who's going to be in charge of doing that. We have another podcast on last wills and testaments. So listen if you want to hear some more about that. It's distinctly different than a living will, which is really you amplifying your instructions about what you want to happen in case you're incapacitated, you're unable to communicate. So you put these things in there. And in fact, for our living will, we call ours a personal care plan. And what we put in there is all kinds of information about your likes and dislikes as well. So this way, that document serves as a guide to people who need to help take care of you if you have to be taken care of. And you
Yeah,
put
I always,
like.
right. And I always say that's the least legal, most emotional document we do. Would you agree?
I do, and it's the
Yeah.
most fun.
Yes,
Most
yes.
fun
We're,
to hear people, to watch people laugh
yes.
and because you're going into the nitty gritty of their life and they're giving instructions to their family. You know what that prevents?
Hmm.
Fighting, right? Fight
Yes.
between the kids. I know what
Yes.
mom wants. No, I
Yes.
know what mom wants.
Yes.
It helps to fight against those kind of things, which is really great.
And also fighting with the facility, right? If I say mom likes peas, I want to make sure that that's her vegetable of choice. You say, well, why would you put that in there? And I said, have you been in the situation where someone cannot respond for themselves? Those are very important things to that person, maybe not to the facility. But when I say, oh, I have a written document that she drew up that says she wants these things, there's a better argument for the facility as well.
It's funny that you use peas because I have a friend who hates peas. How
That's
do you
me.
like hates peas?
Yes.
I
Can't
love
stand them.
peas. I don't can't stand how you can't. But the point is, can you imagine you hate peas and they're serving you peas? I
Yeah.
mean, this is,
Yeah.
or you like to knit. If you don't have wool, you can't knit. If you can't communicate, you want wool, it may be difficult to do that. So
Exactly.
that's why that personal care plan part. But the difference between your living will and your healthcare proxy is your healthcare proxy is the appointment of the person who's going to do the things for you, your agent or proxy. In ours, we also put in a HIPAA release, the Health Information Privacy Act waiver, so that the doctors will actually speak to the agent, because a lot of times people will sign an additional document, a HIPAA release as well. We have that right in our document. And we also put in who's going to take over in case something happens to agent number one.
Yes.
Even agent number three, right?
Yes.
Put in contingencies. I think good planning, you will probably agree that good planning has contingencies to it.
Well, and what happens when we don't have a healthcare power of attorney and something happens? We end up in court,
Yes, that's correct.
and
So
we never want court involvement, right? That's our goal.
what does that court involvement look like in Ohio? What do you have to accomplish to make decisions for somebody else?
Yeah, and in Ohio, we have to do a guardianship over the person, not the estate necessarily, but the person. And it's long, it's complex, it costs money. It's just unnecessary government involvement is what it is. And so for anyone who doesn't have a healthcare power of attorney and a living will, it's time. It's time right now.
It really is. It really is. I mean, you've heard of some of the kind of consequences of not having those kind of documents. If anybody's familiar with Terry Schiavo or Karen Ann Quinlan, two people who are very famous for a very similar thing, which is not having a written instruction, being brought to a hospital in a non-responsive state, and then getting hooked up to machinery to keep them alive, despite the fact that they probably never had that intention, but just didn't have written documents.
Right. And the real issue was, what did Terry want? And we'll never know. We'll never know.
Well,
And that's a shame.
and how long did that fight go on for?
Oh gosh. And even the governor got involved. Jeb Bush got involved.
He did. Jeb
It's
Bush, the Congress of the United States, the president, and the Pope got involved. And
unbelievable.
15 years later,
Yeah.
finally Terry was laid to rest.
Yeah.
And according to her husband, that's what he was fighting for. She never would have wanted to be on respiration and
Right.
life continuing machinery, but her
Right.
parents continued to fight, saying no,
Yeah.
she wanted to stay and fight. And if you
Yeah.
want to avoid that, do a healthcare proxy, do a living
Yeah.
will, explain what it is that you want and don't want. Because why is it so important to have?
Well, you also have to appoint who's in charge, right? That's the other important part of that.
Right.
Not only what you want, but who do you want making those decisions? And, you know, we can't make that in a vacuum. I can't just create a healthcare power of attorney for you and you not have the conversation with your agent. You have to talk to people about what you do and do not want. And that's maybe a difficult conversation for a lot of people. And I know a lot of my clients have them, but have never discussed what they want because they feel like, if I discuss it, it's going to make me sick, right? Or I'm going to get sick. Yeah, which is ridiculous, but you know, that's the feeling.
Factor, the superstition factor. Like, come in, I'm going to do my documents. Within a week, I'm gone. It's over.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very true. Very, very true. But and also, it's important choosing the right person, right? You have several children. Your desire is not to have resuscitation or not to have resuscitation at all, or not under certain circumstance or whatever. You have to choose the one who will be able to do that. You have the emotional child, you have the logical child, you have the one in between, so
and you've got the one in medical service, right? That's usually the pick. Oh, well, Susie's a nurse, I'm going to choose her.
Yes.
Well, Susie the nurse might not be your best choice just because she's a nurse. So yeah, we have to really flesh out those people and who they are and why they're important to you.
Yeah. Really, it's important. Most of the time, most people sign it at a hospital right before a major surgery, where you're like, your head is so up in the air, you don't know what you're doing, and they say, here's this thing, sign it. It's basically a do not resuscitate order that you sign in front of it. Maybe that's not what you want. Maybe
right
that to happen.
And we hope you never need to use it. That would be key. Right. If you never get sick and you never are unable to answer for yourself, that's the best case scenario.
Indeed. So what are some of those consequences that we face besides having, the state having some defaults that they have to go to? Doctors generally have to keep you alive. That's what their directive is. So if you come in a non-responsive state, and depending upon what's wrong, they're more likely than not hooking you up to life-sustaining machinery. And if you don't want that to take place for too long, you need to have some direction in your documents.
And we talk about loss of control, right? Our story goes that the couple married 57 years goes to dinner.
Okay.
You've never heard this one?
No, come, tell me.
Okay, good. So they're married 57 years. Mom has a stroke at the dinner table and everybody calls 911. She comes, the paramedics come in and give her everything. And she has a document that says she doesn't want that. But what we have in our document is a second crack at the apple, which says, I want everything. I'll take a breathing machine. I'll take a food tube. I'll take anything to help me get back to 100%. Let's say I have had a stroke. I want to get back to 100% as close as possible. But if in 30 days, and you can select the days, because the days to me don't really matter, right? It doesn't matter how long, but that you say, I don't want these things anymore. And that becomes so important because it's that loss of control in these downloadable Ohio, New York power of attorneys, healthcare power of attorneys, that they just don't have the language you need. They're very generic. Of course they are. They're drafted for everyone. Not for you, they're drafted for everyone. And so therefore you want something more personalized, and that's what we can provide.
Yes, absolutely. And some people choose, I want to do it for 365 days. I'm not sure why they want to do it for that long, but
you can do it.
That's how we make it. We help you personalize those documents so that you get what you want.
Right.
So I mean, I think that we've made the case that it's very important to have a healthcare proxy.
Yes,
Or
yes.
healthcare power of attorney as they have in Ohio.
Well, and these are not complex, difficult things, right? This is a must have. This is not a, should I do one? Should I not do one? No, you should have one. And
Absolutely.
if you're 18, I'm going to say it again, 18 or older, you need to have one
Immediately, right?
immediately.
As
Yep,
well as a power of attorney as well.
exactly.
You never know. You never know when
No.
things will happen that you need the assistance of others. Do nothing, no problem. The state will be involved in your life. They
And
will.
we make more money. Let's put it that way, right? That's all it comes down to. You want to pay us more, you can pay us more, but we want you to be planned. We want you to have your healthcare power of attorney in place.
It really makes sense. And in addition, it's the byproduct is some peace of mind.
Yes.
That's generally what it is. That's what my clients
Yes.
always say, that they feel
Yes.
better because now they know if something happens, who they want, who generally someone who loves them and knows what they want, will be chosen to be that person to help, and the best results happen from those kind of things.
And the next time you're at your doctor, give them a copy. Make sure they have it on file. Make sure you're ready to go. I know you may get admitted to a hospital somewhere else where they're going to want them. And we usually tell our clients, look, if something happens, you're in an emergency, call us. We keep copies. We can send a copy via email, fax. Just get those documents done so we have you ready to go.
But we can give you access to those documents 24 hours a day
Yes.
on our secure portals. Right now, you have
Yes.
secure portals where your documents are held by us, in a secure manner, and only you can access them, but you can access them wherever you are.
Yes.
It's very important to have them in places where the people who will use them have access to it immediately.
Well, and those are two key things that a lot of firms won't offer you. And so I just want you to be aware that this is available, and you're welcome to access our portal, like you said, 24/7. It's kind of an awesome thing.
Yep, absolutely.
Good.
Well,
I think that's it. I think we've covered it.
yeah.
Do it. Get your healthcare power of attorney today.
Absolutely.
Not to sound like a used car salesman, right?
Alongside your power of attorney as well, your regular financial power
Yes.
of attorney and your power of attorney. And while you're at it, some kind of planning to make sure who gets what you want, when you want, and how you want. That's what we are here to do, and provide the peace of mind of knowing that doing proactive planning, integrating that to make sure that the result you want is going to happen, does not happen by accident.
Correct. Absolutely.
You should take action soon, or now, in fact. And if you need to reach us at the Estate Planning and Know the Law Group here in Queens, New York, it's info@epelg.com or info@aljlaw.com.
And for us in Cleveland, it is info@icanprotect.com, or icanprotect.com is our website. You're more than happy to visit our website, find out more about us, and come and see us. And the last thing I'd like to say, Andrew, is anyone out there who has topics for us, we'd be happy to discuss them. We'd like your feedback, good or bad. We want to hear all of it so we know going forward what we can do to help you better plan your estate.
Absolutely. Rate us on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 means Matt and I should just stay in bed, not come out here and do this. Or 5, that we're giving you some good information, helpful for you, helpful for your families. And that's what we're looking to do, just impart some good information in a way that's a little less scary, because we're not scary guys.
Yes, well, I'll speak for myself.
Ah.
I'm just kidding. But I will tell you also that I think we're going to have some guests coming up. So again, any topics you'd like to know about, we're going to have some guests, some fellow attorneys who practice along with us. We're hoping to have the leader of our group come on and talk with us, so of our national organization. So stay tuned. This is going to be good stuff.
Absolutely. And have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.